My name is Ava, and I am 27 years old. Growing up, I always felt like an outsider in my own family. While my brother Ryan basked in our parents' adoration, I existed in his shadow. For years, I tried to earn their love until one day they actually said those words to my face. "You're not the favorite. Deal with it." So I did deal with it in my own way. Now they're panicking because I've cut them from my life. Before I continue my story, let me know where you're watching from. And if you've ever felt invisible in your own family, hit subscribe. Trust me, this journey might feel familiar. I grew up in a quiet suburban neighborhood in Pennsylvania, in what looked like a picture-perfect middle-class family. Our house was the one with the white picket fence and neatly trimmed lawn that Dad insisted on mowing every Saturday morning. From the outside, we appeared to be the ideal American family with successful parents, two well-behaved children, and a golden retriever named Rusty. But behind closed doors, things were very different. My earliest memory of feeling different from my brother Ryan was when I was about 5 years old. Ryan was only 3 at the time, but already my parents, Margaret and Thomas, treated him like he hung the moon and stars. I remember one particular Christmas morning when we both received presents. I had asked for a specific doll that was popular that year, but instead got a generic substitute. Ryan, however, received exactly what he wanted, plus several additional expensive toys. When I asked my mother why Santa brought Ryan more presents, she simply said, "Santa must love Ryan more," and laughed like it was a joke. I didn't find it funny. As we grew older, the pattern became more obvious. When I brought home straight A's on my report card, my parents would give a cursory "good job" before changing the subject. But when Ryan brought home B's and C's, they'd celebrate by taking us all out for ice cream, praising his improvement and effort. The message was clear: his mediocre performance deserved celebration, while my excellence was simply expected. Our wardrobes told the same story. Mother would take Ryan shopping for new clothes at the start of each school year, selecting name-brand items and spending hours ensuring he had the right look. For me, it was either hand-me-downs or quick trips to discount stores where she'd impatiently tell me to just pick something already, as if my preferences were an inconvenience. Father's treatment was perhaps the most painful. Every weekend he would take Ryan fishing at the local lake or coach his Little League team. They shared inside jokes and had secret handshakes. I would ask to join them sometimes, but Father always had an excuse. "This is guy time, Ava," or "you wouldn't enjoy it anyway." With me, he was always emotionally distant, speaking in short sentences and rarely making eye contact. I tried everything to win their approval. I kept my grades perfect, helped around the house without being asked, and never caused trouble. I thought if I could just be good enough, they would love me the way they loved Ryan. My childhood friend Sophia, who lived next door, was the first person to point out how unfairly I was treated. "Your parents are weird with you," Sophia said one day as we sat on her porch swing after school. "My mom treats all of us the same. Your mom and dad definitely like Ryan better." I defended them at first. "They're just busy with work. They love us both the same." Even then, I was making excuses for them. The truth became undeniable at my 10th birthday. My parents had forgotten entirely. I came down to breakfast expecting at least a happy birthday, but was met with the usual morning rush. No cards, no presents, nothing to indicate it was a special day. I spent the whole day at school fighting back tears, hoping that maybe they were planning a surprise for when I got home. They weren't. When I finally worked up the courage to remind them, my mother's face fell. "Oh, Ava, I'm so sorry. We've been so busy planning Ryan's baseball tournament this weekend." That same month, they threw Ryan an extravagant birthday party with a hired magician custom cake and gifts that must have cost hundreds of dollars. My 5th-grade teacher, Ms. Jenkins, noticed something was wrong. She saw me sitting alone at lunch on my birthday and came to sit with me. After some gentle questioning, I broke down and told her everything. She listened without judgment, then gave me a small gift, a journal with a beautiful cover. "Sometimes writing down our feelings helps us understand them better," she said. "And Ava, I want you to know that you matter. Your feelings matter." That journal became my sanctuary. I filled it with my thought streams and the growing awareness that no matter what I did, I would never be the favorite child in my family. Still, as childhood gave way to adolescence, I held on to a small hope that things might change, that one day my parents would see me. High school was when the emotional toll of being the unfavored child really began to affect me. I developed anxiety that manifested as stomach aches before family dinners and depression that left me feeling empty even during moments of personal triumph. The constant comparison to Ryan and the implicit message that I wasn't enough created wounds that were becoming harder to hide. The Christmas when Ryan turned 16 highlighted the disparity in how our parents treated us. That morning, Ryan was led outside blindfolded to find a brand new car in the driveway, a red Jeep Wrangler with a massive bow on top. My parents beamed as he shouted in excitement, jumping up and down and hugging them both. I stood in the doorway, invisible as usual, remembering my 16th birthday 6 months earlier when I received clothes and a $50 gift card. When I had asked about getting a car, my father had lectured me about responsibility and the cost of insurance. For Ryan, those concerns apparently didn't exist. "Why does Ryan get a car when I didn't?" I asked my mother later that day while helping her clean up wrapping paper. She sighed as if I was being difficult. "Your brother needs to get to football practice, Ava. Besides, we could afford it now. We couldn't back then." The truth was, our family's financial situation hadn't changed in those 6 months. What had changed was whose milestone was being celebrated. Despite the unequal treatment at home, I threw myself into school activities where my efforts were recognized. I joined the debate team and discovered I had a talent for constructing compelling arguments. I won regional championships and qualified for state finals. But my parents missed every competition, always having some excuse related to Ryan's football schedule. My art teacher encouraged me to submit pieces to the school exhibition, where I won first place for a self-portrait that the judges called hauntingly emotional. My parents skipped the exhibition opening because it coincided with one of Ryan's regular season games, not even a championship, just a regular game. During my junior year, I met Derek in AP Literature. He was thoughtful and noticed me in ways my family never did. He listened when I spoke, remembered details about my day, and made me feel valued for the first time. We dated for most of high school, and he was the first person to make me question whether the problem was with me, as I had always assumed, or with my parents. "You know this isn't normal, right?" Derek said after meeting my family at a dinner where my parents spent the entire time discussing Ryan's college prospects while ignoring my recent debate championship. "The way they ignore you, it's not because you're not amazing. It's because they can't see it." The college conversation during my senior year was the clearest example yet of the different standards applied to Ryan and me. My father sat us both down one evening for what he called the future talk. Ryan, who had managed to maintain a B average and scored decently on his SATs, was told he could apply anywhere he wanted. My parents would pay his full tuition at any private university that accepted him. Then my father turned to me valedictorian with perfect SAT scores and extracurricular achievements that filled 2 pages of my resume. "Ava, we expect you to apply for every scholarship you can find. State schools have excellent programs, and with your grades, you should be able to get enough financial aid." The double standard left me speechless. Later that night, I confronted my mother in the kitchen. "Why is Ryan getting a free ride to any college he wants while I have to find scholarships and go to a state school?" My mother didn't even look up from the dishes she was washing. "Your brother needs more support than you do, Ava. You're independent and capable. You'll be fine wherever you go." Being seen as capable had become my curse. Because I could handle things on my own, I was expected to do so, while Ryan received support and resources simply because he hadn't demonstrated the same self-sufficiency. During my college years at the state university, I worked 2 part-time jobs while maintaining a full course load. I worked at the campus bookstore between classes and waited tables on weekends. Meanwhile, Ryan was struggling with basic courses at his expensive private university, and our parents hired him tutors and sent him extra spending money whenever he called. I majored in psychology partly because I was fascinated by human behavior, and partly because I wanted to understand my family dynamics. When I shared my choice of major with my parents, my father scoffed. "Psychology. "What kind of real job will you get with that?" he asked dismissively. Yet when Ryan declared a business major after changing his mind 3 times, my father proudly told everyone at a family gathering, "My son is going to be the next business tycoon. He's got the natural talent for it." My college roommate Jasmine became a close friend and confidant. The first time she visited my family home during a holiday break, she was horrified by what she witnessed. "I thought maybe you were exaggerating," she said afterward. "But it's even worse than you described. They barely acknowledge you exist. How do you deal with that?" The truth was, I wasn't dealing with it well at all. My resentment was growing, but so was my determination to maintain some kind of relationship with my family. Deep down, I still hoped that someday they would see me, really see me, and give me the love and recognition I had craved my entire life. The summer after college graduation marked the beginning of the end of my tolerance for my parents' favoritism. I had graduated summa cum laude with a psychology degree and already secured a position at a respected counseling center, starting as an intake coordinator with a clear path to becoming a counselor once I completed my master's degree. At the family dinner supposedly celebrating my graduation, my mother spent 15 minutes talking about the new curtains in the living room before my father changed the subject to Ryan's internship. "Did Ava tell you about her job offer?" my Aunt Karen asked, trying to redirect the conversation. "Oh, yes, something at a clinic," my mother said vaguely, not bothering to get the details right. "It's a counseling center," I corrected. "I'll be working with trauma survivors." "That's nice, dear," my father said before turning back to Ryan. "Tell them about that executive you met, son." 2 months later came the breaking point. We gathered for a family dinner that my parents had insisted was important. Ryan, who had just completed his business degree, announced he had received a job offer at a mid-sized marketing firm. The position was entry-level with average pay, but my parents reacted as if he'd been named CEO of a Fortune 500 company. "This calls for champagne," my father declared, bringing out an expensive bottle he'd apparently been saving for a special occasion. "A toast to Ryan, who is going to take the business world by storm." Earlier that week, I had received a significant promotion at the counseling center, moving from intake coordinator to assistant counselor with the center, agreeing to help finance my master's degree. When I tried to share my news during a lull in the Ryan celebration, my mother nodded absently. "That's nice that they're keeping you on dear," she said before turning to my father. "Thomas, did you tell Ryan about the car allowance we're giving him to help with his commute?" Something broke inside me at that moment. 22 years of being overlooked, marginalized, and treated as an afterthought in my own family crystallized into a moment of clarity. This wasn't going to change. This dynamic was entrenched, and no achievement of mine would ever be enough to make them see me as they saw Ryan. After dinner, I asked my parents if I could speak with them privately. Ryan went upstairs to call friends about his job, and I sat across from my parents in the living room, heart pounding. "I need to ask you something," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "And I need an honest answer. Why have you always treated Ryan differently from me? Why does he get celebrations and financial support and attention while I get overlooked and expected to fend for myself?" I expected denials or defensiveness. What I got was worse. My father looked at me with mild annoyance, as if I was bringing up a settled matter. "You're not the favorite Ava. That's just how it is. Deal with it." The words hit me like a physical blow. I looked to my mother, hoping for some contradiction or softening, but she just nodded in agreement. "You've always been so sensitive," she added. "Ryan just fits better with our family. You've always been a bit different, always in your head with your books and ideas. It's not that we don't love you, but you can't force chemistry, can you?" Chemistry. As if the bond between parent and child was some random chemical reaction that either happened or didn't. As if their responsibility to love both their children equally was something they could shrug off as incompatible personalities. I don't remember how I left the house that night. The next clear memory I have is sitting in my car a block away calling my therapist's emergency line. Dr. Lena Martinez had been working with me for the past year, helping me process my family dynamics. "They actually said it," I told her, my voice breaking. "They admitted I'm not the favorite and told me to deal with it. Like it's normal. like it's acceptable to say that to your child. Ava, I am so sorry they said that to you. Dr. Martinez responded with the warmth my parents had never shown. What they've done is emotional neglect, and their admission doesn't make it acceptable. It makes it confirmed abuse. That night, I experienced my first full-blown panic attack. Lying in bed in my apartment, I felt my chest constrict, my breathing become shallow, and a sense of impending doom wash over me. The room seemed to spin as the foundation of what I'd hoped my family could be collapsed entirely. As I finally drifted into an exhausted sleep near dawn, my phone pinged with a text from Ryan. Great dinner last night, sis. Thanks for being there for my big announcement. By the way, did something happen after I went upstairs? Mom and Dad seemed weird. Even in this, Ryan was oblivious to the family dynamic. He wasn't to blame, I realized. He had been raised in an environment where he was the son and everything revolved around him. He didn't create the dynamic, he just benefited from it. The responsibility lay with my parents, who had created this unbalanced family system and sustained it for over 2 decades. The weeks following my parents' brutal honesty became a period of intense therapy and self-reflection. Martinez helped me understand that continued exposure to my family's toxic dynamic was damaging my mental health, reinforcing negative self-perceptions, and preventing me from healing. You need to consider what boundaries would help protect your well-being, she suggested during a particularly difficult session. Sometimes limited contact, or even a period of no contact, is necessary for healing. At first, I resisted the idea of cutting off my family. Despite everything, they were still my family, and some part of me still yearned for their approval and love. But as we explored my history and the consistent pattern of emotional neglect, I began to see that hoping for change was keeping me trapped in a harmful cycle. What would it look like, Dr. Martinez asked, if you put your well-being first, if you treated yourself with the care and respect your parents should have shown you? That question became my North Star as I developed a plan to protect myself. I decided against a dramatic announcement of cutting ties, which Dr. Martinez agreed might lead to additional trauma from their reaction. Instead, I would gradually reduce contact in a way that gave me control over the process. My first step was moving to a new apartment without sharing my new address with my family. I found a cozy one-bedroom place in a neighborhood across town with large windows that let in abundant natural light, perfect for the small indoor garden I'd always wanted to nurture. When my mother called asking for my new address to update her records, I simply said I preferred to keep my address private for now. Her confusion and irritation were evident, but I held firm. Next, I changed my phone number, giving the new one only to friends and colleagues. For family, I created a Google Voice number that would forward to my phone but could be easily filtered. I also set up email filters that would send my family's messages to a separate folder that I could check when I felt emotionally strong enough to handle their content. I established a protocol for myself. I would check in with a brief call once a month, keeping conversations superficial and limited to 10 minutes. If my parents began criticizing me or making comparisons to Ryan, I would politely end the call. I declined invitations to family gatherings that had historically triggered anxiety and depression, including the annual Thanksgiving and Christmas celebrations that always ended with me feeling invisible. While creating distance from my birth family, I focused on building a stronger support system. I deepened friendships with colleagues at the counseling center who understood healthy boundaries. I joined a therapy group for adults from dysfunctional families where I found community with others who had similar experiences. An unexpected ally emerged in my father's sister, Aunt Lillian. She had always been kind to me, but we had never been particularly close. After I missed a family birthday gathering, she reached out directly. "I noticed you weren't there," she said when we met for coffee. "And I think I understand why. Your father did the same thing to me growing up. Our parents favored him just like your parents favor Ryan." For the first time, I learned that this pattern had generational roots. Aunt Lillian shared stories of her childhood that paralleled my own experiences with eerie similarity. She had ultimately moved across the country in her 20s, maintaining only minimal contact with her brother, my father. "I recognized what was happening to you when you were very young," she admitted. "I tried to talk to your father about it once, but he dismissed me completely, said I was imagining things because I was jealous of his perfect family. Aunt Lillian became a surrogate parental figure, someone who could offer the familial connection I craved without the toxicity I was trying to escape. The first holiday season after establishing boundaries was the most difficult. Thanksgiving approached, and my mother called repeatedly, leaving increasingly agitated messages about my expected attendance. I sent a simple text. I won't be attending Thanksgiving this year. I wish you all a nice holiday. Instead, I accepted an invitation from my friend Jasmine, who had moved to the same city after college. Her family welcomed me warmly, and I experienced a holiday meal without tension comparison or feeling like an unwanted guest. The contrast was startling and healing. In my journal, which I had maintained since Ms. Jenkins gave me my first one in 5th grade, I documented the changes in my mental health as distance from my family grew. Entries shifted from anxious rumination about family interactions to excitement about new friendships and professional growth. My chronic headaches decreased, my sleep improved, and the constant background hum of anxiety began to fade. The first real confrontation came 3 months into my new boundaries. My mother called my Google Voice number, her tone immediately accusatory. "You've missed 3 family gatherings now," she said without even a greeting. "People are asking questions. You're embarrassing us." "I'm taking care of my mental health," I replied, using the script I had practiced with Dr. Martinez. "This is what I need right now." "This is childish, Ava. You can't avoid your family because of some perceived slight. Your brother never behaves this way." The familiar comparison to Ryan would have once sent me into a spiral of self-doubt. Now it merely confirmed that my boundaries were necessary. "I'm not avoiding my family because of a slight," I said calmly. "I'm creating distance because you and Dad have consistently treated me as less important and less worthy of love than Ryan, to the point where you explicitly told me I'm not the favorite and to deal with it. This is me dealing with it in a way that's healthy for me." My mother's shock at having her words repeated back to her was evident in her silence. When she finally responded, her voice was tight with anger. "You're twisting our words. This kind of behavior is exactly why it's always been easier with Ryan." I ended the call, then following my own protocol. But instead of feeling guilty or anxious, I felt stronger. I was no longer accepting the narrative that I was difficult or defective. I was standing in my truth. The shift in my family's reaction was gradual, but unmistakable. For the first 2 months of my limited contact, my parents seemed to dismiss my absence as a temporary bid for attention. My mother's voicemails alternated between irritation and dismissive amusement, as if I was a child having a tantrum that would soon pass. "When you're done with this little drama, we'll be here," she said in one particularly condescending message. "Your brother is concerned about you, though he's too busy with his new job to call." By the 3rd month, the tone began to change. There was confusion edging into concern, though still framed as annoyance. My father, who rarely called me even before I established boundaries, left a message demanding an explanation. "Your behavior is inappropriate, Ava," he said. "You have responsibilities to this family. Call your mother. She's upset." What neither of them acknowledged was the reason for my distance or their role in creating the situation. They framed my boundary setting as a character flaw, rather than a response to their treatment. Interestingly, my brother Ryan began to notice the dynamic in my absence. He called one evening sounding genuinely puzzled. "Mom and Dad are acting weird about you not coming around," he said. "Dad got really angry when Aunt Lillian suggested they had driven you away. I've never seen him so defensive." "What do you think, Ryan?" I asked, curious about his perspective now that the family balance had shifted. There was a long pause. "I don't know. I guess I never realized how differently they treated us until you weren't there to compare me to. Mom keeps bringing up your achievements now like she's trying to convince herself she always supported you." It was the beginning of awareness for Ryan, though he had a long way to go to fully understand the family dynamic he had benefited from. As months passed, my parents' attempts to regain control escalated. My mother sent increasingly manipulative messages ranging from guilt trips, "I cried all night thinking about how we've lost our daughter," to veiled threats, "Family is forever, Ava. You're making choices you'll regret when we're gone." My father took a more direct approach, calling one evening after clearly having had a few drinks. His voice was louder than usual, emotional in a way I rarely heard. "You're breaking your mother's heart with this selfish behavior," he said. "Is that your goal, to hurt her, to hurt us?" "No," I replied, keeping my voice calm. "My goal is to protect myself from further emotional damage. I spent years trying to earn your love and approval only to be explicitly told I'm not the favorite child. I'm creating space to heal from that." "For God's sake, Ava, it was one comment made in frustration. You're throwing away your family over nothing." "It wasn't nothing to me, Dad. And it wasn't just one comment. It was a lifetime of showing me I mattered less." He hung up without responding. The family pressure intensified after I missed Thanksgiving. Extended family members began reaching out, some with genuine concern, others clearly recruited by my parents to persuade me to return to the fold. "Your mother is telling everyone you're having some kind of breakdown," my cousin Jennifer reported after a family gathering. "Aunt Lillian actually stood up to her, though. Said maybe if they had treated you better, you wouldn't need space now. It got pretty heated." Aunt Lillian called the next day to check on me. "I want you to know I defended your choice," she said. "Your mother tried to make it sound like you're unstable, but I made it clear that you're making a healthy decision for yourself. I told them they need to respect your boundaries if they want any relationship with you." As Christmas approached, my mother sent an elaborate gift to my workplace, the one address she still had for me. I returned it unopened with a note. "I appreciate the gesture, but I'm still maintaining my boundaries at this time." The returned gift prompted Ryan to track me down at work, appearing in the counseling center waiting room one afternoon in early January. "We need to talk," he said when I came out to meet him. "This has gone on long enough. Mom is a mess, Dad is angry all the time, and nobody will tell me exactly what happened." I suggested we go to a nearby coffee shop away from my workplace. Sitting across from him with steaming mugs between us, I finally had the honest conversation I'd never been able to have with my brother. "They told me explicitly that I'm not the favorite Ryan, that you are, and that I should just deal with it." He looked genuinely shocked. "They actually said that those exact words." "Yes, after years of showing me the same thing through their actions." Ryan stared into his coffee. "I never saw it. I mean, I knew they made a big deal about my stuff, but I thought they did the same for you when I wasn't around." "They didn't." Looking back, there were signs. The car, college tuition, even how they talked to us. He looked up, guilt creeping into his expression. "I should have noticed. I'm sorry, Ava." It was the first time anyone in my family had apologized to me, and though Ryan wasn't responsible for our parents' behavior, his acknowledgement meant something. "What do you need from them?" he asked. "What would make this better?" "I need them to recognize what they did, take responsibility for it, and commit to treating me with respect and equal consideration. But honestly, Ryan, I don't know if they're capable of that." "Let me talk to them," he offered. "Now that I see it, maybe I can help them see it too." I didn't have much hope for Ryan's intervention, but I appreciated his willingness to try. As 6 months of minimal contact stretched toward a year, my parents' panic became palpable. My mother left a tearful voicemail on my birthday, a date she had forgotten many times in the past. "Please come home, Ava," she sobbed into the phone. "Whatever we did, we can fix it. Just tell us how to fix it." The fact that she still didn't acknowledge what it was showed how far we had to go. Most surprising was a message from my father, a man who had never admitted fault in his life. His voice sounded older, more subdued than I remembered. "Ryan has been talking to us," he said. "He says we may have been unfair to you compared to him. I'm not saying he's right, but if you feel that way, perhaps we should discuss it. Call your mother, please." It wasn't an apology or even a full acknowledgement, but from my father it was unprecedented. The tables had turned. They were now seeking my attention, approval, and presence, the very things I had spent decades trying to secure from them. As I listened to their messages, I felt a complex mix of emotions. There was vindication, yes, but also sadness for what could have been if they had valued me all along. There was no joy in their distress, only a somber recognition that sometimes relationships must break before there's any chance of rebuilding something healthier. As my physical distance from my family continued, my personal life flourished in ways I hadn't anticipated. At the counseling center, my dedication and natural empathy were recognized with a promotion to senior counselor once I completed my master's degree. My supervisor, Dr. Karina Walsh, became a mentor who showed me what healthy professional guidance looked like. "Your ability to connect with clients who've experienced family rejection is remarkable," she told me during a performance review. "You're turning your personal experiences into a gift for others." My new apartment became a sanctuary that reflected my personality in ways my childhood bedroom never could. I painted the walls a soothing sage green, displayed art that spoke to me, and filled bookshelves with psychology texts and the fiction I loved. There were no critical comments from my mother about my strange taste, or reminders that Ryan's room always looks so nice with the decor I chose for him. The friendships I developed during this period were deeper and more authentic than any I'd had before. Without the constant drain of trying to earn my parents' approval, I had more emotional energy to invest in relationships that were reciprocal and nurturing. Jasmine remained a close friend, along with two colleagues from the counseling center, Nadia and Patrick, who understood professional boundaries but also became personal confidants. We had weekly dinner gatherings where we cooked together, shared stories, and created the kind of supportive environment I had always craved. About 8 months into my limited contact with my family, I met Michael at a professional development workshop for mental health practitioners. He was a family therapist with kind eyes and a quiet confidence that I found immediately appealing. Our conversation during the lunch break flowed easily from professional topics to personal interests, and by the end of the day, he had asked for my number. Our relationship developed with a healthy slowness that allowed trust to build naturally. Michael came from a close-knit family with parents who had been married for 35 years and who treated their 3 children with equal love and consideration. The first time he invited me to a Sunday dinner with his family, I was nervous about what I would encounter. What I found was a revelation. Michael's parents, Anna and James, welcomed me with genuine warmth. Throughout the meal, I observed how they engaged equally with each of their adult children, showing interest in their lives without comparison or favoritism. When Michael mentioned my recent promotion, his parents asked thoughtful questions and offered sincere congratulations. "This is what a healthy family looks like," I told Dr. Martinez in our next session. I didn't even know what I was missing because I had nothing to compare it to. The contrast between Michael's family gatherings and my childhood experiences was both healing and painful. It confirmed that the problem had never been me, but it also highlighted how much I had lost through my parents' inability to love me fully. As our relationship deepened, Michael suggested a weekend trip to his family's lake house. His parents would be there along with his sisters and their partners. The idea of an extended family gathering still triggered anxiety for me, but I agreed, trusting both Michael and the progress I had made. That weekend became a turning point in my understanding of family dynamics. We played board games where everyone's competitive spirit was met with good humor rather than criticism. We took turns cooking meals with appreciation expressed for everyone's contributions. When I mentioned feeling nervous about an upcoming presentation at work, Michael's father James offered encouragement rather than dismissing my concerns. "Family should build you up, not tear you down," he said when I confided some of my background to him. "You always have a place at our table, Ava." In therapy, I experienced a breakthrough as I processed this experience. "I've been trying to earn love my whole life," I told Dr. Martinez. "But love isn't supposed to be earned. It's supposed to be given freely." "That's a profound insight, Ava," she responded. "How does it feel to recognize that?" "Liberating," I said, surprising myself with the emotion behind the word. "And sad because I spent so many years thinking I was unlovable when the problem was their inability to give love, not my worthiness to receive it." This realization transformed how I approached my work as well. I started a support group at the counseling center specifically for adults who had experienced family favoritism or emotional neglect. The group grew quickly, confirming how common yet unaddressed this particular family wound was. In one of these sessions, I reconnected with Jessica, who had attended the same high school but had been 2 years ahead of me. She shared that she had always been unfavorably compared to her athletic older brother, creating a bond of understanding between us. "I never thought anyone would understand exactly what this feels like," she said after one particularly emotional session. "It's like having an invisible wound that no one acknowledges, but it affects everything in your life." For my 28th birthday, I decided to celebrate on my own terms for the first time. In previous years, my birthday had either been forgotten by my family or overshadowed by some event of Ryan's. This year, I planned a day that was entirely about what brought me joy. I took the day off work and started with a sunrise hike at a nearby nature preserve, something my parents had always dismissed as a waste of time. I treated myself to brunch at an upscale cafe, bought a piece of art I'd been admiring for months, and ended the day with a small gathering of friends at my apartment. There were thoughtful gifts, a cake with my name spelled correctly, and people who were happy to be celebrating me. The following month, I finally took the solo vacation I had always wanted, but had been discouraged from taking by my parents, who considered traveling alone unsafe for a woman and a sign of having no friends. I spent a week in Santa Fe exploring art galleries, taking a cooking class, and hiking in the surrounding mountains. I sent myself a postcard with a message I needed to hear: "You deserve to take up space in the world, Ava." Back home, I continued building a life that reflected my values rather than my parents' expectations. I joined a community volunteer group that worked with underprivileged children, finding purpose in helping kids feel seen and valued. I adopted a rescue dog, a gentle mixed breed named Luna, who offered the unconditional love I had always craved. One rainy Saturday, I discovered a box of childhood mementos I had brought from my old apartment. Inside were drawings, report cards with achievements that had gone unrecognized, and photos where I often stood slightly apart from the rest of the family. Rather than storing these painful reminders away again, I decided to transform them. I spent the weekend creating a mixed media art piece that incorporated elements from these items rearranged to tell a new story. My story. The finished piece hung in my hallway as a reminder of both where I had come from and how far I had traveled. With each passing month, my confidence in setting boundaries grew, not just with my family, but in all relationships. I learned to recognize early warning signs of unequal dynamics or disrespect, addressing them directly, rather than accepting treatment that diminished my worth. This newfound strength attracted people who respected boundaries and valued authentic connection, creating a virtuous cycle of healthier relationships. The person I saw in the mirror was becoming someone I recognized and respected, someone who no longer needed external validation to know her worth. The journey wasn't linear, and there were still days when old wounds felt fresh, but the trajectory was undeniably upward. After nearly a year of minimal contact, my parents made a desperate attempt at reconciliation. They appeared unannounced at the counseling center one afternoon, creating an uncomfortable scene in the waiting room where clients could witness their demands to see me. My colleague Nadia intercepted them, explaining professionally but firmly that I was in session and unavailable. When they insisted on waiting, she suggested they leave their contact information instead, as there was no telling how long my day of appointments would run. "They seemed really shocked that they couldn't just demand your time," Nadia told me later. "Your mother kept saying they had driven 3 hours to see you, as if that entitled them to immediate access." I called them that evening, maintaining the boundary but acknowledging their effort. "I appreciate that you want to talk, but showing up at my workplace isn't appropriate. If you'd like to meet, we can arrange a time at a neutral location." My father started to object, but my mother interrupted him. "We'll meet wherever you want, Ava. Just tell us when and where." I suggested a coffee shop halfway between our cities and specified that I would be bringing a support person, Dr. Martinez, if they were serious about having a productive conversation. To my surprise, they agreed. On the day of our meeting, I arrived early with Dr. Martinez choosing a quiet corner table that offered some privacy. My parents arrived exactly on time, looking older than I remembered. My father's hair had more gray, and my mother's face showed new lines of worry. They hesitated when they saw Dr. Martinez, clearly not expecting a professional therapist to be my support person. "This is Dr. Martinez," I introduced. "She's here to help facilitate our conversation." My father frowned. We don't need an outsider for a family discussion. I do, I said simply. Her presence is non-negotiable for me. After an uncomfortable moment, they sat down. Dr. Martinez explained her role, establishing ground rules about respectful communication and taking turns speaking. Then she invited me to start. I've created distance between us because the family dynamic has been harmful to my mental health. I began using the script we had practiced. I need acknowledgement of the unequal treatment I've received throughout my life and a commitment to change if we're going to have a relationship moving forward. My father immediately became defensive. This is absurd. We gave you everything you needed. If you were jealous of your brother, that's your issue, not ours. Thomas, Dr. Martinez interjected gently. Ava is sharing her experience. The first step toward healing is listening without defensiveness. He looked like he wanted to argue but fell silent. My mother reached across the table trying to take my hand, which I subtly moved away. We miss you so much, Ava. Whatever you think we did wrong, we're sorry. Can't we just put this behind us and be a family again? That's the problem, I said. You're apologizing without acknowledging what you're apologizing for, and nothing will change if you don't recognize the pattern. What pattern? My father demanded. I took a deep breath and laid out specific examples. The forgotten birthdays, the college tuition disparity, the celebrations for Ryan's achievements, while mine went unrecognized, and ultimately, their explicit statement that he was the favorite child. My father shifted uncomfortably. You're being too sensitive. Parents aren't perfect, and maybe we made some mistakes, but your reaction is extreme. Actually, Dr. Martinez interjected, Ava's response is quite healthy. She's protecting herself from a pattern of behavior that caused significant emotional damage. My mother began to cry. Not the manipulative tears I had seen before, but something that seemed to come from a deeper place of realization. I never meant to hurt you, Ava. Ryan needed more attention. He struggled more. You always seemed so capable on your own. Children shouldn't have to struggle to receive love and attention, I said quietly. That's the core issue. I was rewarded for my independence with neglect, while Ryan was rewarded for his dependence with support and celebration. For the first time, I saw my mother consider this perspective. My father was still resistant, but a seed of understanding seemed to have been planted. By the end of our 2-hour conversation, we had established some tentative conditions for rebuilding contact. I would attend one family event in the next month, a small dinner, rather than a large gathering. My parents would respect my boundaries about discussion topics and duration of the visit. And most importantly, they would begin their own therapy to address the family dynamics. I can't guarantee where this will lead, I told them as we prepared to leave. But I'm willing to try if you are genuinely committed to change. My mother nodded eagerly, while my father gave a reluctant assent. Dr. Martinez provided them with references for family therapists in their area, and we parted with an awkward goodbye that was neither the warm reconciliation my mother clearly wanted, nor the continued estrangement my father seemed to expect. The process of reestablishing contact was slow and sometimes painful. My parents found a family therapist as agreed, though my father initially attended under protest. My mother made more rapid progress, beginning to recognize how her behavior had contributed to the unhealthy family dynamic. The first small victory came when my mother attended an award ceremony at the counseling center, where I was recognized for developing the support program for adults from dysfunctional families. She sat quietly in the audience and afterward approached me with uncharacteristic humility. I'm very proud of you, Ava, she said. And I'm sorry I missed so many important moments like this before. My father's journey was more difficult. He struggled to accept his role in creating the family imbalance, often reverting to defensiveness or minimization. You turned out fine, he said during one particularly frustrating family therapy session. So clearly we didn't do anything that harmful. The family therapist challenged him directly. Ava turning out fine was despite your treatment, not because of it, and she carries wounds that have affected her entire life. Progress came in small increments. My father began asking questions about my work, rather than immediately changing the subject to Ryan. My mother made efforts to celebrate my achievements without comparison. Ryan, who had his own revelations about our family dynamic, became an unexpected ally in establishing healthier patterns. The real test came 6 months into our cautious reconciliation at a family dinner where my father reverted to old patterns, dismissing a concern I raised, and then turning to praise Ryan's handling of a similar situation. I stood up calmly. "I'm going to leave now," I said. When we agreed to rebuild our relationship, part of that agreement was treating me with the same respect and consideration as Ryan. This conversation isn't meeting that standard. My mother looked alarmed. My father started to object, but Ryan interrupted him. "She's right, Dad. You just did exactly what she's been talking about. You dismissed her and then praised me for basically the same thing." The shock of having both his children confront him seemed to finally break through my father's defenses. He didn't apologize immediately, but he didn't argue either, which for him was significant progress. Throughout this period, Aunt Lillian remained a constant support, offering perspective on my father's behavior based on their shared childhood and celebrating my strength in establishing boundaries. "Your grandfather favored your father the same way," she told me. "He's repeating a pattern he learned. It doesn't excuse it, but it helps explain it." My relationship with Michael continued to deepen, and after a year and a half together, he proposed during a return visit to his family's lake house. My joy was complicated by thoughts of my family's potential involvement in our wedding. "We can have whatever kind of celebration feels right to you," Michael assured me. "If that means a small ceremony without your parents, or a larger one with clear boundaries for their behavior, or anything in between, I support you." His understanding reinforced what healthy love looked like, something I was still learning to fully accept. The healing journey wasn't linear or complete. There were setbacks and difficult conversations. My parents might never fully change their core patterns, but awareness had created space for a different kind of relationship. One where I maintained my power and self-worth rather than seeking their approval. I had learned that while forgiveness might be part of my healing, it didn't require forgetting or allowing harmful patterns to continue. Forgiveness was something I did for myself, not for them, releasing the burden of resentment while maintaining the wisdom of experience. Perhaps the most profound realization was that family isn't just defined by blood. Throughout my journey, I had built a chosen family of friends, colleagues, and mentors who provided the unconditional support my birth family had not. They had shown me that I was worthy of love simply for being myself, not for what I achieved or how I performed. As I moved forward into planning a wedding and eventually creating my own family with Michael, I carried both the lessons from my past and the promise of a different future. I was determined to break the generational cycle of favoritism and emotional neglect, to create a home where every child knew they were valued equally and unconditionally. The journey from being the unfavored child to becoming a whole, healthy adult hadn't been easy, but it had been necessary. By cutting ties temporarily and then rebuilding on my terms, I had reclaimed my power and my sense of self-worth. My parents' panic when faced with losing me had been a painful but essential catalyst for change. For anyone watching who recognizes their own story in mine, I want you to know that setting boundaries with toxic family members isn't selfish. It's survival. Sometimes loving yourself means walking away from those who cannot love you as you deserve. And sometimes, though not always, that distance creates the possibility for healing that could never have happened otherwise. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've experienced family favoritism or emotional neglect, I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments below. Have you found the courage to set boundaries with family members who hurt you? What helped you on your healing journey? Please like this video if it resonated with you, subscribe for more stories of resilience and healing, and share with someone who might need to hear. They're not alone. Remember, you deserve to be valued simply for who you are, not for what you achieve or how well you perform for others.